Council about your benefits being cut.
You are going to lose £68.13 per week.
To £95.33 per week.
Next, please.
The reason that you are being capped is because you are not working.
Ticket number 750.
My worst fears would confirm it is going to be an accommodation outside of London.
You're doing me like an animal.
You've got 7 children. It is not possible for you to afford to live in London.
They're going to pay that figure if I go out to work, but yet they can't pay my rent now.
I could pick up that computer and dash it down there.
There's a lot of people are suffering because of this benefit cap, you know, and a lot of people are out in the street.
Would you do it sitting down raising 5 children? Really?
As man, sometimes you have to go do stuff you might not want to do.
Any problem, my son, you and you're the office problem.
I'm only there for a year and I can be uprooted all over again to come back to London. It doesn't make any kind of sense.
The reality is all we're doing here is we're saying that nobody on benefits, people who are not working, should be earning more than the average earnings for the rest of Britain.
Hi, I'm from Brent Council. Yeah. My name's Minesh. Well, coming with regards to the benefit cap.
What?
Brent Council's welfare reform team are delivering details of one of the most radical welfare reforms for 60 years. It's called the overall benefit cap.
They've got those drafts excluded.
Introduced by the government last August, the cap means no one out of work and on benefits gets more money than the average working family. That's set at no more than £350 a week in benefits for a single person and £500 for families.
Usually one will knock on the door, and we'll stand back to see if anybody looks through the windows.
Oh, someone's up there.
Another one who answers the door.
Yeah, there's not much we can do.
£29 is what you are losing per week from your housing benefit.
My husband has no job and is...
Yes, if he's not working, we need to maybe then refer him to somewhere where he can find work.
Okay.
Many will lose hundreds of pounds a week. The government's message is clear.
Hi, Shraddha from Housing Benefit in Brent Council.
Work at least 16 hours a week as a single parent and 24 hours as a couple. You'll avoid the cap and keep your house and benefits.
I note that you are working. Have you?
Working.
Yeah, have you made an application for working tax credit?
Just chill tax credit.
Yeah, but because you are working 24 hours, you are entitled to it.
Across the UK, housing benefit is usually enough to cover the rent. In London, as rents are the highest in the country, the cap could result in many people losing their homes.
Oh, hold on. Hi, we're from the council. Is your mum or dad in?
Yasser Al-Masawi and his team have spent the last year warning people how serious the impact of the government's changes are going to be.
The lights on the sitting room.
The reason we're doing the visits is we're hoping to make sure that people are aware that they've been capped. Some people just don't think it's going to happen. They won't be affected. They just want to put their head in the sand. It's good that they finally do come and tell us that they've managed to get work or they've managed to increase their hours or something like that. That's better for them, and they can stay in their homes.
Implemented by the government nationwide, the cap is having the biggest impact in London boroughs like Brent. Almost half of those capped live in the capital.
I will give my loyalty to the United Kingdom.
Brent is one of the most ethnically diverse and deprived boroughs in the country. Up to 3 times a week, the council's citizenship ceremony marks the final stage in the journey of those who want to become British citizens. About 5,000 people in Brent each year.
Dragomir Serafimov and Mariana Todorova.
That's excellent. And let's do that romantic shot with the Queen.
London's lack of cheap housing, combined with the cap, hits large vulnerable households hardest. Councils like Brent say they have no choice but to move them out of the capital.
We will not see, we will not accept any kind of Kosovo-style social cleansing of London. You are not going to see, on my watch, you are not going to see.
The coalition government believe the cap is fair and just, saves money and encourages people into work. The Labour Party broadly agrees. Polls suggest over 70% of us think it's a good idea.
Ticket number 163.
With access to Brent Council and filmed over 7 months, we tell the story of how the government's new benefit changes are impacting on families.
He says you have to go to Birmingham no matter what. Once we move out, 7 children, they will be without a school. We will be jobless.
Ultimately, you're facing homelessness. If it's a private sector bailiff's warrant tomorrow, the eviction will be going ahead.
Awaz Osman originally came from Somalia and has been living in Brent for 23 years. He is now a British citizen.
Deadline is tomorrow for the bailiff. So that means tomorrow at 6 in the morning, we have to move out. So I called them, everything, they give us house in Birmingham. I don't even know where it's Birmingham. I've never been to Birmingham. Hey, take those scissors. Put some, don't drop it.
The rent for Awaz's 4-bedroom house is around £500 a week, but that's the total amount of benefits after his cap. The council believe his only option is moving him to cheaper accommodation 115 miles away in Birmingham.
They're not happy, they don't want to go. Because they're losing the social life, family, friends. We lose everything if we go Birmingham. If we lose the school, that's the biggest damage we will have it. And we have to lose our job as well. So I live in all my entire life in London. So I'm not going to go in Birmingham, definitely. 100%.
It's Awaz's eviction day, and it's time to hand over the keys to the landlord.
I think you can't call the bailiff, they don't need to come, isn't it? Before it was okay, it was good. Everybody, we don't have any problem, and no one has a problem before. But since this cat happened, every family, they're suffering. I'm not going to go to Birmingham. I will look for something else. Because I'm working hard, they cannot do that, they cannot take me in there.
They head back to the council to persuade them they both have part-time jobs. Awaz is a van driver and his wife's a beautician. They believe this should exempt them from the cap and from being moved.
The cap is when you're not working, but we working. How can it affect us? This is evidence. Yeah, this is the papers, this is my bill letter, this is my contract, this is my pay slip. What else evidence can I bring it? This is more than enough evidence.
As I understand it, we've offered you accommodation in Birmingham, which you've turned down. And the reasons you've provided us for turning it down is that you're in employment. You only, in fact, told us you were in some form of employment for the first time yesterday.
I have told them before. I said I'm starting work 1st of September.
We have records of phone conversations with your wife.
But I don't know that phone conversation, but
Two conversations. I said, this was last week. This conversation was had last week.
No, when I was working, she didn't even know that. I didn't tell her I was working.
We've seen this time and time again, not just with yourself, with a number of applicants who, in a bid to try to avoid the caps, come here and present to us information that are not necessarily true. You're opening yourself up for prosecution if we do find that you've provided false information in an attempt to secure housing from this local authority. We do not accept that your employment is genuine.
Okay, no problem, but I can prove you.
So wait, Awaz, situation really is, you've got 7 children.
Yes.
It is not possible for you to afford to live in London. Explain it to me. How will you pay the rent for a property that's worth £500 and you only get £500 from the government?
If we go to Birmingham, we have to start our life from ground zero.
And I really empathize with
our
that.
family, our friends, our schools, our jobs. We have to go zero.
I empathize with that.
No one in
Mr. Awaz,
Birmingham.
what you've got to realize is we didn't make these laws. What we tried to do is help. We did not make you homeless.
But what happens because you're destroying us?
No, we're not. As I said, your job's under question.
Okay, what about her job?
You're still not exempt from the caps, so you can't afford to stay.
Ticket number 33. Please go to desk.
The council workload begins to increase.
Next, please.
As the news of the cap finally gets around.
So after I've paid my rent, what does that leave me for water, electric, gas, food, and you know, you just can't live on it, can you?
If I don't find the work,
If you don't find
it's
the work,
a problem.
it is a big problem, I know.
I've been brought up and lived in Brent for 30 years. My mum and dad live here, my friends live here, my kids' dads live around here, you know, and they're talking about family value, but they're splitting up families.
Maybe I should find a nice lady and make her pregnant, because that's the only way I'm going to be able to, or she and I are going to be able to have a relationship, and I'll get a council flat, because that's how it works, isn't it? 17, 18, get knocked up, get a council flat, happy days.
Just take a seat.
Tracy McCarthy is a single mother with 3 children who's lost £106 a week due to the cap. She is also fighting an eviction.
He just wants me out of the property. The possession order he tried to give me by hand, but I've refused to open the door.
Is that because you're fighting in the local?
Yeah, I won't open the door to him.
You sound like you're quite familiar with the eviction process, so you know you just got to wait for one more eviction notice, and don't get worried just yet, okay? The case will then be passed over to the temporary accommodation support team. They will try and secure suitable accommodation for you and your family.
Okay.
All right?
Okay. I don't know where I'm going to be in 6 months' time. I don't know if my children are still going to be attending the schools that they're attending, whether I'm going to be able to go on to attend college. It's just uncertainty, that's what it is.
Usually I can get work quite quick in a pub, and I need work quick at the minute, so I've been looking for a job and nothing yet, so my confidence is just down low at the moment.
Tanya Blake is a single mum of 2 who is desperate to find a job and avoid the cap.
Won't keep you a moment. I'm just wondering, have you got any vacancies at the moment?
You can leave your CV.
Can I?
Almost 60% of those capped are single parents, and they are the hardest hit.
Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Tanya is capped exactly the same as a couple who could both work.
I've been going online, newspapers, going into places in person, just to hand in my CV. Oh, Marley's got it. Thank you. Most of my problems would be over, and I can get better sleep at night time. That would be excellent. Yeah, I don't know if you have any vacancies or not.
At the moment we don't, but I can take your CV. And
yeah, that would be lovely. That would be lovely.
Over the last few months, Tanya has had 6 job interviews.
When I get my job, I will never be going back on benefits in my life again. It's too stressful. I'm a person that's always been to work, and they put me under that tar with all the others, like I live on Benefit Street. I'm not about that. You know, I don't want to be known as those people like that.
The benefit cap has contributed to a housing crisis in the capital, with too many people chasing too few affordable homes. In the past, councils were free to pay the market rate for rented properties. But in 2011, the coalition government cut what it paid private landlords. They were then far less willing to rent to people claiming welfare, resulting in increasing numbers of evictions. It was the job of Brent's head of housing needs, Lawrence Coker, to deal with the fallout from the landlords.
Some of them were taking a hit of £200 or £300 per week, which they couldn't sustain. So the outcome of that was that they evicted the tenants, and they didn't re-let their property to us. By putting on a cap which is for the whole country, it hasn't worked for us. It hasn't worked for London or the South East. What we are having to do is to find accommodation which the households can afford by claiming the housing benefit, but that's outside of London, it's outside of Brent, and the families don't want to go there, understandably, because they've lived in Brent all their lives.
Many claimants are now stuck, often in poor housing in expensive areas, waiting to be evicted. Their rents made unaffordable because of the cap.
My toilet, it keeps seeming to flood up and everything, and it will be like walking in water, and it's a sewage work, so my house stinks like a sewers most of the time.
Tanya and her 2 children, Rios and Kamali, were moved outside Brent to Notting Hill 3 years ago, and the council paid her rent.
This is where they have to leave poison for the mice. It's not good at all. One time they came and they just put the poison in a dish, and I found this little boy come and told me, "Mummy, what's this?" Brent thought this was a good place for me. You know, they enforced this property on me with a £500 a week rent. You know, I just had a bar job at the time, so I don't know how they expected me to afford this rent. I had my work in Wembley, my big boy was in nursery there. No, not good. Not good.
The cap means Tanya's lost over £200 a week.
Laugh and giggle, smile and grin.
Her rent eats up what's left, and she's got nothing to live on. If she doesn't find work, she'll be evicted.
When I was growing up, I never saw my mum and dad at work. I don't know how anyone can be rich and proud on benefits. No. To me, it's very shameful. You know, I hate being in this situation. I hate having to rely on the government. I need a job and a cheaper accommodation. So then I've got more chance and more money to spend on the household and the boys, because it isn't cheap.
There were 10 cases where £100,000 a year was spent on housing benefit for individual families. That's 10 too many. It's one reason why Labour has said we would support a cap on overall benefits. But how best to design this cap to avoid it pushing people into homelessness and ending up costing more?
In search of large, cheaper properties, many London boroughs rehouse families in the West Midlands, like Handsworth in Birmingham, where rents are more affordable.
So the beds arrived. They're piled up here at the moment because we don't know until the family arrive which bedrooms each person will be sleeping in. So we'll keep...
Mark is Brent Council's man in Birmingham, and he's preparing for Awaz and his family's arrival from Brent later that day.
We supply a fridge freezer to the property and a washing machine. You know, as well as a cooker, that's what the clients are given. We always make sure the toilets are clean when people come, because there's nothing worse than coming into the house with a dirty toilet. This property in London might be costing the taxpayer about £1,500 a month. Here in Birmingham, the local housing authority rate is £714. It's quite a substantial saving on what the local authorities are having to pay out in London, really.
But back in Brent, Awaz is still resisting the council's offer.
The question I need an answer to is, are you accepting the offer in Birmingham or not?
To be honest, I'm really stressed and confused. I don't know what to choose and what to do, to be honest. That's the truth.
I need to know. The office is shutting down. As I said to you, it shut down at 5. We've been, you know, we started our conversation before 4 o'clock. It's almost 5 o'clock now.
I don't know what to say, yes or no.
I need to know, though.
If I don't work next week,
listen,
I lose the job.
The question about your employment, that will be investigated.
I know,
so don't,
I know,
you know,
but that's
so,
what I'm
you know,
saying.
So leave that to us to do.
Next week.
Good morning, Brent Council. How can I help?
Hello, it's Mark in Birmingham. You alright?
Yeah, I'm fine, Mark.
Yeah. Yeah.
Mark's been on standby all night, waiting for Awaz and his family.
I'm just reporting the clients didn't turn up last night.
Yeah, we've heard nothing this morning.
We waited until 11:30ish. Found them this morning, still no answer. So obviously it's up, you know, it's up to you lot at your end now, you know, with that one. That's 2 in a week who haven't turned up, you know. It's a bit frustrating that I've wasted my time, but at the same time, there'll probably be more of these cases. Some people really, really don't want to be here, and others are making the best of it.
I don't even know where I'm going, actually.
Tanya's rent is expensive. As a single mum, she would prefer not to work, but has no choice as she is desperate to avoid the cap.
Oh, we're down there. Come on, big boy. Come on.
Okay, so we're calculating that you have to pay a difference of £219.59
Per week.
per week.
No way can I pay 200 and something pounds a week. That's almost £800 a month. And I just don't have that kind of money every week. After I pay my rent, I'm going to have to send my children out begging. So I don't have no way to feed them or to pay my other bills at home. I mean, I'm thinking just to give up my property, give up my house.
And then to move home?
Oh, I don't know. I'm going to have to... I don't know. I don't know. Sorry about that. I don't blame them what they're doing to get, like, the lazy people back to work, but, you know, I've just had a baby, and I'm not looking to go back to work. When he's 6 months or around 7 or 8 months where he's walking and can go in nursery, then yeah, I'll go back to work and stay in work. But it's hard. It's hard. It's hard.
29. Please go to desk 14.
As I said, my worst fears were confirmed. It is going to be an accommodation outside of London, in High Wycombe.
I am a straight man. I got a very good family.
Okay.
I'm going straight.
Let's try.
You're doing me like an animal.
Let's try to move this thing on. Listen to me. Listen.
Palestinian refugee Khalid Qasim has 7 children and moved to Brent 16 years ago.
I'm telling you that nothing can be done. This is all we have. Okay. Why don't you try to stay with someone? Try to stay with someone.
I got very big family. How it comes?
Yeah,
this is my mind.
Khalid has a part-time grocer's job earning £150 a week. His benefits are £800 per week. As he's working, he should never have been affected by the changes, but he's still being evicted. The only affordable accommodation is 30 miles away in High Wycombe, Buckinghamshire.
And I told them if he hurt him myself, you are responsible about it.
Who's that? Sorry, sir?
My oldest child. He told me if I leave the school, I will hurt myself.
Sir, don't try to emotionally blackmail us, number one.
Okay, I know.
Okay, that's called emotional blackmail, okay?
No, sorry about that. Sorry about that. Okay, sorry about that.
Okay.
Sorry about that.
Anything happens to your children, that's your parental obligation to safeguard them. Okay, so do not try to blackmail us with this, okay?
I can go to that address and everything,
That's
but
fine.
you have to
Then
sign a letter that if my eldest child hurt himself, you are responsible about him.
Which local governmental authority officer in their right mind is going to do something like that? You tell me. You can't sit here and protest. This is a public building. We'll have a closing time. You will eventually be asked to leave this building. You understand me?
Okay, I get the children. You can't do anything against the children. Even touch him. I know the law.
If Khalid wants to keep his job, he's got to travel in from High Wycombe, which will cost him over £350 a month.
I told you I'm confused there. My wife, she doesn't want to accept it. I don't know what can I do.
I want to stay with my friends, and I don't like our place. I just want to stay in London.
Tomorrow is the day for they leave. I don't know where can I go. It's a very difficult situation. You are like someone who's in middle of the fire.
His behaviour at the minute, it's not really going to end nicely, the situation for him. Eventually, if he chooses not to leave, then the ramifications, he will be escorted off the premises. He's here now, and we can only provide him what's affordable, unfortunately. Given time, it's going to get worse and worse. We're going to see a lot more cases such as this. He's got 7 children. He needs to think very, very carefully about what he's going to do now.
What's going to worry you?
Brent's Lawrence Coker is seeing more cases like Khalid's. People who have low-paid jobs evicted and having to leave London.
My fear is, where is this going to end? Where are we going to be able to house these families who are homeless because they've been evicted from accommodation which they can no longer afford? Even if you go out and you do get a job, you won't necessarily be able to stay because there isn't the supply of the private sector housing which is affordable and available.
I had a trial of a job in a bar, but that didn't go too well. So that really made me lose a bit of my confidence.
Tanya's seeking advice from a housing benefit expert.
You're in temporary accommodation, okay, which means they owe you a full housing duty.
Okay.
So it means they can't get rid of you. It may be that what they'll do is they'll look to move you to rent that would be within this £280.
Yeah.
And then it doesn't matter if you work or not, because you're already going to escape the cap just by reducing your rent. The difficulty is going to be, even that £280 that you would be left with, you're going to struggle to find private rented accommodation that's cheap enough. Yeah?
That's what I'm trying to run away from.
Yeah.
Because they're not housing you in London anymore. Whether you work or not, they're housing you out to Birmingham, to Luton.
Yeah.
And if I go out there, I have no support.
Maybe I could contact Brent and ask them to try and find her cheaper temporary accommodation, and these are the areas that she's willing to look at.
That would be a nice thing for you to do, but it's Brent I don't trust. Because they haven't helped me before.
There's a lot of uncertainty.
Yeah. I know it's good of you, but I mean, it's good of you on your side.
You're right.
Yeah, I just get upset.
Because it's such a big document, we really need to be careful about what we put in here.
Back in Brent, housing officer Ali Tahir has got even more bad news for Khalid.
This letter I'm going to issue the applicants with is an enforcement letter. We can do this lawfully. We've made a reasonable, adequate offer of accommodation and give them one final chance to reconsider his decision. If he doesn't, then to all intents and purposes, they're on their own. We're not life managers, we're not life coaches. We are what we are, we're housing officers. We don't have a choice in it as much as they do. Should we go down and give it to them?
Councils like Brent have the power to discharge their duty to rehouse Khalid if he continues to refuse offers of alternative accommodation.
He's not going to be happy. Rest assured he's not going to be happy. We made an offer of reasonable and adequate accommodation in High Wycombe. We urge you to accept this. You've got the right to review within 21 days of receiving this decision letter. If you choose not to, then obviously there's nothing else we can do. Think about your children. You've got they're all under 9, there's 7 of them. Think about having a roof over your head. It may be in another part of the country, it's not too far.
It's very, very late in the day.
But the children...
I don't know. Are you going to take this or not? No,
Yeah. Of course, I take the home. That's because come after my children to school morning. Any problem, my son, you're the office problem.
Okay, I'm good. So you're going to take it, Mr. Kassim?
أنا ما خص. أي نفسية ولد.
Khalid and his wife Faiza still don't want to accept the offer.
ما تقولي ما خصنيش ما تحملني المسؤولية
ما انت عم تحملني المسؤولية
Mr. Kassim, are you going to take the property or not?
خذوا يلا امضي انا ما
Over here, my friend, over here. As man, sometimes you have to go do stuff you might not want to do. That's your responsibility. Take what they're giving you so they don't have to sit here tonight.
Okay.
Yeah. So you take the property, at least the family have somewhere to stay for tonight, and then you can ask for a review. Yeah? Okay. So, would you like to come upstairs, please? Just you, don't, everybody else can stay here.
After arguing for over 6 hours, Khalid and his family finally returned to their accommodation. They will be evicted the next day.
I'm calling from the council about your benefits being cut.
Team and Brent Council.
Received a letter from us recently telling you about the changes to your benefits.
As the changes begin to bite, the Brent Welfare Reform Team are still trying to reach as many potentially affected claimants as they can.
To £95.33 per week.
You are going to lose £68.13 per week.
For some it's really scary because the shortfalls vary for a lot of people. Some shortfalls are £20, £10, some shortfalls are £100, £300.
But you do understand the reason that you are being capped is because you are not working, yeah?
You're saying that he's too sick to go and work, but what about you then?
They react in different ways. Some people do want to get into employment and then we can work with. Some people want to move, we can work with them as well. Some people don't have an option because they can't move because of children and they can't go into employment for whatever reason.
One of the ways the council softens the blow is drawing on a temporary government top-up fund that helps vulnerable families cope with the cap. It's called Discretionary Housing Payment, DHP.
We'll be able to pay discretionary housing payment for you until the end of the financial year, which will be the 31st of March 2013.
We're not going to throw money at people if they're going to sit there and just do nothing. It's not to delay the process, it's to support a solution to the process.
Yeah, but your husband can look after the kids, can't he, while you work? Is that not possible?
Tanya's back at Brent. She's convinced her benefits were being cut and believes she has to find a job. But there's been some confusion.
We are paying out at the moment 500, your rent is fully covered.
So I came here last week, yeah? So can you tell me why nobody stated this to me last week and why I've got all these figures from last week? and I've been getting myself into a right tough and tumble. Because now you're telling me this, it's kind of pissed me off now.
As her son Kamali is under 1, she was getting her top up all along, but she had no idea.
I haven't bought myself any gas, so my house is like a freezer at the minute. Me and my kids haven't stayed in one room. I've not been eating, so my kids can eat. Do you know what I mean? I'm still breastfeeding this little boy, or trying to. My breasts are dried up now. I went to my doctor and he said it's because I'm not eating properly. And because I had to start taking my sleeping tablets because I couldn't sleep at night. Did I need to do all that? No. No. I'm sorry, I'm just so annoyed and angry right now. I could pick up that computer and dash it down there. I'm all right, I'm in a situation now because I don't have to contribute. These guys will pay till March. But in the meantime, I will still look for a job. So when it comes to March, I don't have to come in this building and deal with these people. Because they'll just put me in a mad home and send me to a mad home with all this stress.
Please go to desk 3.
Yes, Marley.
Tanya's temporary benefit top-up will eventually run out. Her rent is so high, the council might still be forced to move her out of London. Single mother Tracy McCarthy has also found she's being capped.
That's £317.80, yeah? What's that?
Like Tanya, she's also getting a temporary top-up because she's studying, but it's also about to run out.
Okay, so how much is the shortfall? It is £106.26. That's what you're short for. A week? Per week, yeah. It's not really affordable, is it really? That's your pay the rent.
More worrying for Tracy is her pending eviction.
And if you do get evicted, because of the shortfall, we have to look at what have you done to avoid that eviction? Have you done anything to get into employment? Have you done anything to move? Then we'll look at it again in November. We'll review it on a regular basis to see how far you've got. Would you be willing to get a part-time job if that meant that you could stay where you are?
It all depended whether I'd benefit out of it financially.
So you would want to do a better off cap with the job centre plus to see what happens.
In High Wycombe, Khalid's getting his first taste of his new home.
Children, they will fall down and one of them will die here. Look, this is there, isn't it?
This house costs £375 a week. An equivalent house in Brent could cost over £500 per week.
There is no space for these things. There's no space. I will bring them here and see the word they said. Healthy and good for the size of your family. Where is it? Can you see it? You can see it, isn't it?
If you don't work 16 hours per week, we will actually be looking at moving you outside of London. One of those areas will be Birmingham. Well, how do you feel about that?
After all the council's efforts to warn capped claimants of the consequences of the benefits changes, the message is finally hitting home.
16 years ago, we came as a refugee in London, and now we are going second-time refugee from London to Birmingham or somewhere else. That, I think, is not good.
However, they sent me a letter, they said you have to move. It's very difficult to go outside London because it is multicultural. We need multicultural. We don't want problem. We need peace and love.
I didn't ask to be moved to Manchester. This was thrust upon me because of the benefit cap. You lot found me a property in a place that I said I did not want to go to. I am not putting my family in danger for the sake of Brent Council.
Donna Roswell has been capped and her benefits almost halved. She's a single mother who, despite being moved to cheaper housing, still needs to find a job.
As you know, we have been engaging with you for some time, okay? Unfortunately, you haven't been successful. And I have previously discussed being an Avon rep. Got a lot of friends, got relatives.
5 children, I'm sorry, 5 children Avon ain't gon' feed. Yeah, plain and straight. Avon, I've done Avon when I had 3 children, so please don't be talking that rubbish to me.
It'll give you that flexibility that you need.
If you do it, that's you. Would you do it sitting down raising 5 children? Really? Don't belittle me with Avon. What's
I'm not
that?
belittling you, but I'm just saying it will give you that flexibility.
It doesn't give me no flexibility.
You know
Really, really. No.
You can't just uproot families and take them out. You can't just make them tell them what they can live off and what they can't, because you're not living with their expenses. Everybody's family is individually, uniquely different. We can't help it.
We did try to assist her, referred her to Job Centre Plus to try and find employment. There wasn't any jobs of her choice. For now, she needs to be a bit more open-minded of what kind of jobs she wants to get into, and I think that will help her. Is she willing to do that? I don't think so.
A little bit scared because it's too far away.
My wife, she's sick. Who's caring about the children? Nobody. And they told me, okay, here now there is a community and a home. I can't trust anybody here, isn't it? She can't see any future in this area. And when I look to her, I think like something is burning inside her heart.
بدنا المستقبل بعد في المستقبل محطموا أحلامنا كلها بهالنقلة، لأن أولادي مفوقين من المدرسة شاطرين، ليش ما حاطين مستقبلهم ورفقات اللي متعودين عليهم، بس نفسيتهم بدها تتغير هون وبينتارا يرجعوا لورا. بقولوا عنا الطفل أهم شيء، وامبارح قالت لي إذا ما أخذت البيت ببعت السوسة القاسية ياخذوا الأولاد منك عشان يهتموا فيهم. منها.
Are you going to sing it? Good night, Lola. Good night, Lola.
Tracy is still fighting her landlord's attempt to evict her.
On the 4th of November, that's when he wants me out of this property, but I don't intend to go. It just keeps me awake at night, wondering what's going to happen, whether I'm going to be shoved in a hotel and forgot about. They're threatening to put me down Luton. I'm not happy about that. I want to stay in the Brent area. To uproot a family and put them outside of London, it's not really practical because like my family network's in London and my friends are in London. It's where I want to stay.
Tracy's bringing up 3 children alone and is unsure whether she is better off on benefits or working. Tracy volunteers part-time and studies 3 days a week at college.
People have that attitude that single parents are single because they want to be and they get more money if they're a single parent. It's not the case. Basically in a full-time job as it is. I don't sit at home watching Jeremy Kyle. I want to go out and work. I want to go out and be busy and keep myself busy. But to go out and work cleaning toilets all day long and things like that for minimum wage, what are you setting your children when they're older? I don't know if I'm going to get the court letter through the door saying you're being evicted on such and such date. You know, could do without the stress.
Khalid has returned to Brent to complain about his house in High Wycombe.
The stairs are a problem.
Yes, they're very dangerous for the children. It's a very long stair to the 2nd floor. We found this one lock in the mattress, what we found. The children woke up at night, they said, what's that, like this? It's not healthy for children. And the train, if I travel from Wycombe to my job, it will cost me around £400 a month.
Yeah.
I can't afford it, to be honest.
He's brought in photos of what looks like an infestation of, could be wood lice or, I'm not sure, some kind of beetle. and the fact that you've got open stairs there. I don't know if the
But this is his responsibility, isn't it?
Yeah.
But it's highly unlikely, isn't it, that these sorts of issues are going to make it unsuitable.
Yeah.
What I need him to be leaving today with is the fact that this is the area that he's going to be living in the, at least the foreseeable future. So what's he doing about the children's schooling, for instance?
He said he's been working since 2006 in Harrow Road.
Yep.
It seems pretty harsh to have to say to people, you might have to give up your job.
Why has he got to give up his job?
Because it's in Harrow Road, and he's saying it costs him £300 or £400 a month commuting from High Wycombe.
But where's he going to live?
Well, exactly. I'm going to have to say
I
it's
think,
your house or your job.
Yeah, well, say to him, find your own accommodation.
Yeah.
We can help you with deposits,
I've said that as
etc.
well.
I mean, if
And
you
he
can find a
thinks-
property that is affordable in Brent, we can't.
Earn more than you would if you actually went out and worked. This is not going to be some sort of punitive program of mass homelessness. That is not going to happen. Of course, we won't allow that to happen. But we are saying, in general...
Since the reforms began, homelessness in London caused by landlords ending tenancies has increased by over 300%. Evicted families are regarded by Brent as technically homeless, and many end up in temporary hostels waiting for their turn to be moved out of the borough.
Okay, this is our second room. This is where we put usually our food and our plates and our cutlery and all that. Because we can't leave in the kitchen, otherwise people take it or use it.
Momino Kulmaya is a British citizen who came from Ethiopia 12 years ago. She's a single mother, and for the last 3 months, together with her 2 daughters, has been living in an emergency hostel.
We use for everything this room. So our food, our clothes, dirty clothes, everything's inside this room.
£616 for 2 rooms per week. It's not worth the money they're saying because that room is really small, so it's alright. Shouldn't be that much money.
Hafsa's family were evicted because of rent arrears. Due to the cap, the council can't find any affordable housing in Brent, so they are moving them to Luton.
I've lived in Brent for nearly all my life, like 12, 11 years, and I like it here. And I have a lot of family here, so I can't just move. And in Luton, I have nobody. I don't know anyone there. I've never been there in my life. And plus, I'm doing my GCSE soon, so I can't move to another school, so they're ruining it for me. So I'm refusing to go. Yeah. They have to drag me out.
Hello.
You're going to come through?
Yeah.
Tracy's back at the council, still trying to find ways to make her finances add up and avoid being moved out of Brent.
So if you started work, you would have to pay about £4 towards your rent. The cap only applies if you don't work.
Okay.
If she was working 16 hours on minimum wage, Tracy's total weekly income would be £811, and if her rent stayed the same, she would have more money to live on.
So you'd have £328.37 left, roughly.
Per week?
For your living expenses, yeah.
I don't believe that figure.
It
I
would
think
be...
that's wrong.
Well, that's the figure the system's giving.
They're going to pay that figure if I go out to work, but yet they can't pay my rent now.
Because obviously you've got a cap at the moment on benefits,
Yeah,
haven't
but then
you?
I'm still going to have the cap, aren't I?
No, if you start work, the cap doesn't apply to you. You can get more than £500 a week. Most of the time you're better off in work. Only if you work full-time maybe, then sometimes it's hard to work out. But 16 hours if you do the minimum for working tax credit, you're definitely better off.
Yeah, just use the lift to get down, yeah?
Yeah,
Just thank
that's
you.
fine. Thank you. I'm staying at college. It means I'm going to struggle, but I'm hoping that because I'm in studies, they'll continue to pay my rent. But we'll see.
You know, all the one really, she says, I'm not going, definitely I'm not going with you. If you want to, go. I'm staying in the street, really.
No,
she was angry.
She's
She was
14,
very angry.
isn't it?
Yeah.
Momino's elder daughter Hafsa is still insisting on staying in Brent.
You need a house, isn't it?
They need a house.
Exactly. So it's for you to talk to your children. Tell them, you are the mother, you can't just leave her there. You're supposed to be telling her what to do.
can I have a right to say no, this house, really? I'm not happy, definitely, if you're not.
I know. If you refuse, we'll stop working with you. You can't come to us for help. And the B&B where you are, we are going to cancel it within 7 days.
Mumino will have to find her own cheaper property or get a job. She hasn't worked for 12 years and the council's deadline looms.
I don't think she'll be able to make it on her own. She can't find the deposit because most of the estate agents will ask for 1 month rent, 1 month deposit, which is really hard. Even me, I'm working, I can't afford to do that. They think we're being hard, and they don't think it's happening actually. They think it's just you making a decision on their behalf.
If you're happy and you know it, nod your head, nod, nod. I like coming here, I like volunteering, I like coming to the centre. It's something that I enjoy.
Helping out in a children's nursery may help with Tracy's career plans, but it won't stop her being capped and moved out of Brent.
Ramona, look, magic! When I mentioned to them that I'm doing voluntary work, it's not recognised by the council, it's not recognised by the homeless unit. They said it's irrelevant for my moving process, so they're happy for me to be homeless on the day that my eviction comes, and they're happy to put me in a different area, so all this will completely be gone. I would be happy to get a paid job, but it's just uncertainty really. I don't know where I'm going to be, what's going to happen. It's going to affect everything.
Tracy's decision not to work is a gamble. The council might continue to financially help out, but if she's evicted, she could end up like Mumino, living in one of Brent's B&B hostels.
We don't have the time.
Mumino's moving today with her youngest daughter Hanan, but needs to pick up her belongings stored with family and friends.
This is the hardest thing I ever see in my entire life, really. Even,
Her elder daughter Hafsa hasn't turned up.
she says, I'm not going, Luton is not my area, I don't want to go, so.
We meet again, inshallah, soon.
Well, I'm feeling a little bit sad because usually we visit each other. We can't if I move there because it's a little bit far. I need this money, a lot of money to travel here. So.
Mumino's arrived at her new house in Luton with Hanan, her younger daughter.
Do you like it? I'm not sure.
Hello, I'm Donna from TL Properties.
Mumino's weekly hostel bill in Brent was over £600, but in Luton, this 3-bedroom terrace house costs less than £170 a week.
This is the living room come dining room. Through here's your kitchen. Here's your bathroom.
It can't be for in the kitchen and toilet. I don't know what
it is legal. And then upstairs we have 3 bedrooms upstairs. We've got a big Arndale centre just 5 minutes away. We've got a little shop down the road on the corner.
Yeah. This is not sitting room. Why do they say sitting room?
Open plan lounge diner. That's what most of the houses look like now.
Do you think this is look like sitting room?
Yeah.
Be honest. It is not really. It is not. Luton, and again, bad house. This area is crap, really, it's crap for me. If this one is in London, I should say, oh, at least I have a house in London and my children is going to the same school. But now, I don't have a good house. And also, I'm changing everything,
Yeah.
So it's...
I think it's best to make a phone call to them, see what they say, sort it out through them. We don't want to sort of...
Mumino makes one final plea to her Brent housing advisor.
Do you think it's possible to come back in London? Yeah? I can't carry in this hard life, really. Because you're pushing me something I don't want it, really. I'm not stressed, I'm vastly stressed, really. Why are you closing?
What's happening? Are you going to take the property or are you deciding not to?
They say, do you don't have a choice?
You've got to take it, right, okay.
Yeah, I don't have a choice. I have to.
What are you doing?
After over 2 years in her rented house, Tracy's finally being evicted.
The landlord's here. Grab the baby! Grab the baby! Mum, mum, mum! The landlord tried to illegally evict me. One day when I was out, he come round, bolted up the door so I couldn't get in again, and I ended up having to climb through a bathroom window, heavily pregnant. I'm not really bothered about the landlord. I'm just more worried about where I'm going to be tonight. Wherever I'm going to be, it's going to be upsetting for the kids if I'm putting a bed and breakfast. I'm not going to be able to keep these in their bedtime routine. It's just going to be a nightmare. Here, I'm leaving here today. Being evicted. Give me your number. Where's your phone?
Bye, Buster. Bye, Lola. See you later. I'll ring you.
Definitely, we'll go for a
One of the worst tenants ever I've come across in my entire life. There's people on benefits that are grand people. It's not their fault that their benefits be cut down, and there's the very best of people that gets benefits. Not this lady. She's one of the worst ones. I own a few properties and I wouldn't let a thing to the council now last resort.
I'm not giving him his keys. Why should I? He's chucking me out of the property, so... Come on, Buster.
Tracy now has to return to the council and declare herself and her family homeless.
You've got to be near Wembley, don't you? Okay.
At the council, Tracy's worst fears are confirmed. There's not a house available, just a hostel.
But the main thing, Tracy, is that you're not on the road. You and your children will have a roof over their head, and we've taken that into consideration.
I could be there for over a year.
No, you don't have to be there for over a year. Why would you say that?
Because I've known people in this.
But it's not people's case, it's your case. And my
kids are going to be uprooted and everything, and we're going to just be stuck in a room.
Hopefully it won't be for very long. But just remember, at least you've got somewhere to go to. You and your children won't be homeless. Yeah? All right? Okay, thanks.
I knew it, a hostel, oh God. It's just going to be a nightmare, I know it is.
In the last year, due to the government's welfare reforms, 276 households have been moved to accommodation outside of Brent. Across the UK, even though councils have tried to help claimants avoid the cap, over 38,000 families were still affected. What's difficult to predict are the long-term consequences of the government's reforms on the lives of those forced to leave their homes. After 7 months, the experiences of the Brent families we have followed have been very different.
I'm going straight. You're doing me like an animal.
Khalid drove 30 miles each day to take his children to school and to keep his Brent job. Following a council review of his case, they moved him and his family back to London.
7 children, they will be without a school. We will be jobless.
A council investigation proved that Awaz and his wife were legitimately working. They moved to Birmingham, but rarely lived there, preferring to stay with family in Brent. Donna never actually moved to Manchester, and after 15 years on the housing waiting list, she got a cheaper council house in Brent.
I'd never thought the day would come when I'd actually have my own property. To know that I'm still local, the entire family's over the moon.
She's now got a full-time job in a children's nursery. The government's intention is to encourage people back into work, but so far, only around 1 in 10 of those capped has a job. For Tanya, the council managed to find a cheaper private rented property back in Brent.
I'm just a lot more at ease now and a lot more relaxed now. Because I can feel like I have a future now, I can afford to get on with my life now.
But she is still unemployed. Momino found a part-time job but is still capped. Hafsa never did join her in Luton and stays with family in Brent. They rarely see each other.
I'm feeling what all moms feel. Not feeling well when my daughter is other places. It's hard, it's very hard.
It's not good really what they're doing, because they're just splitting up all the families. See each other like once every 2 weeks or sometimes once every week. And the longest I've been seeing her was like probably 3 weeks. Just want us to all be together.
No fridge locks.
Tracy and her family of 3 are currently living in a one-room hostel in Brent, waiting for a new home somewhere.
If I'm here in September, I doubt it whether I'll be able to go to college. A lot of people are praying for me, I'm praying for myself and for my children, and I'm just hoping that I will be able to get out of here as quick as possible basically, and then get into some kind of temporary flat or something to enable me to have a steady life with my children. Don't jump on that bed.
Nobody on benefits, people who are not working, should be earning more than the average earnings for the rest of Britain.
805, so we're getting £255 and 7 pence too much, according to the cap. They've done is they've taken 20 pounds.
Means that the benefit cap has affected your household, which means that your current accommodation is not affordable.
The government is announcing the most radical overhaul of our welfare system since its inception, driven by a simple, overriding principle. The purpose of welfare is to help people into work.
And Panorama returns on Monday at 8:30. Tonight at 10 on BBC One, a man has been charged with the Omagh bombing, in which 29 people died, and the latest on the MP Nigel Evans, who's been found not guilty of rape and sexual assault. The BBC News with Hugh Edwards is next.